prepping some brass, getting ready for when the Beretta BRX1 comes in with my name on it, which the gun shop told me would be around sometime mid-September. They're going away on holidays soon until the 12th of September, so it's not going to be before the 12th anyway. This is the same Lee 308 die that had the not sizing the case enough problem, or bumping the shoulder back enough problem, but because this is brand new brass, I'm running it through on the Forster press, but in the future I'll have to run it through on the Lee classic cast press with the shell holder that I ground down to get enough bump. So that's what's happening at the moment. Let's put some more lube on this lube pad. Fairly new to using a lube pad and running cases over like this. I did have a feel of that Beretta at the gun shop. I don't know if I mentioned that in my last video. I like it. Trigger's got a bit of creep, but not enough to worry me. The whole gun felt good. Just, like I said, waiting for mine to come in. The one that he had there was another customer's. They had their order in before me, so understandably they get that one. I'm just using a cotton bud with some lube on the cotton bud tip, and I run that inside the case mouths to lube inside the case mouth so it's not galling them on the expandable. I may, a bit awkward running this here with the camera and then the light. I can't sort of step right around that side of the press, which as you can see is one of the downsides of the Forster press. You can't get in from the sides of the press due to the arms. There are aftermarket arms which are bowed. They have a bow in them to allow you to get sort of in at the front, but yeah, I'm not paying for them. These will be run through the ultrasonic cleaner for roughly half hour because they're not dirty, it's just getting the lube off and out of the inside of the mouth, and then I'll be running them through the dehydrator for a few hours to dry out. This is PPU brass. Cheap brass at the moment. 20. I have to look at one of the packets. I believe they're like $24.95 or something for 50. So quite a good price for brand new brass. As it's only hunting brass, I'm not going to worry too much. I just dinged that because it didn't go in even. Run that through again. But trimming, chamfering and deburring, because that just came over the expandable, that fixed that. And then trimming, chamfering and deburring will fix the rest of that. Just get these done quickly. Sunday afternoon. Every 2 lots of cases I run over the pad, I put a little bit more lube on there. And I re-lube the cotton bud for doing in the mouths every second run or so. I find that usually has enough. I only do every second case as well with the lube inside the mouth. Get these done. I can fit all 100 cases in the Hornady 2 litre ultrasonic. Well, I wish they made a bigger version. All the manufacturers tend to make like a smaller version, and then their bigger version is like 6 litres for running whole like gun parts through. Because they're in the US, they can run AR parts through the ultrasonic planer. We don't really have a use for the super big ones here, but I wish they did say a 4 litre, something twice the size of this, for running big batches through. I've already done 100 brand new cases the other day or the other weekend, and this is another 100. I was also looking at those outer edge projectiles, 80 grain 25-watt projectiles. Again, I'm very tempted to get some because I checked. I think I've roughly got 70 or 80 loaded rounds, 25-watt 6, and then I've got basically another 100 empty cases that I could load those outer edge projectiles in and experiment with them a bit, see what they're like speed wise. I was running the numbers through quick load last night for it. I think the 80 grain projectile, I think the maximum velocity you could get was 30, 35, 50, roughly, something like that. That's again if your gun likes it loaded that fast. And roughly the difference between the 80 grain and the 100 grain in energy was, I think, about 1 to 200 foot-pounds at the muzzle, which is a little bit, but again, that 80 grain projectile would be a lot tougher than that 100 grain spear that I've got loaded. And I'll have to double check now when I finish these. I'm pretty much out of stock of the 100 grain boat tail soft point spear, so I won't be buying any more of them. I'll switch to a tougher projectile, whether it's that 80 grain outer edge projectile or something else. I've still got to decide. I like the idea of that 80 grain outer edge projectile though, because they're manufactured in Australia, so you're not waiting on stock to come from overseas if you're ever wanting to buy more. So you've got a good supply of them. I'd be interested in them as well, with the outer edge projectiles, if they made, say, 110 grain version for the 308. But unfortunately, the lightest I think they make is a 135 in 30 cal. I know Barnes make 110 grainer and a 130 grainer. A little bit more on that cotton bud. Smear it around. Nice and rolling. Trying to get these done fairly quick, which is why I'm rushing a bit. Now put these through here. Hadn't made a video in a while, so I thought I'd film this. It was only about an extra 2 minutes to set the light and the camera up, or the phone technically. So, do it like this. these. Hit this pad with a little bit more lube. I just wish we could get that Hornady one-shot spray here still. I know the gun shop I use a lot had heaps on back order. You just can't get it. Hornady either aren't manufacturing it or aren't supplying it to the Australian market anymore or something. I don't know. I much prefer it though. I used to use the Lyman lube. I much prefer the Hornady because the Lyman I've had turn cases black if you don't clean it off the cases immediately. Like, imagine colouring a case in with permanent marker. That's what it sort of did to them. And sometimes if I get caught up doing something, I don't get to run the cases through a cleaner straight away. Like, they might wait a day or two before they go through the cleaner with the lube on them. And that stuff is really hard to sort of set on them. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, the Hornady was much better, in my opinion. And much, not only better in regards to cleaning off the cases, but I reckon it was actually a better lubricant. It seemed to size better. Always run new brass through the mouth of the, or at least over the expandable in the die, but I usually run it completely through the die just to make sure the case mouths are all perfectly round. I haven't really counted how many cases I get on here at once, but it's roughly around 10, 8 to 10, sometimes more. Give them a roll on there. Relube this cotton bud a bit. I find this RCBS lube to be a bit tacky. Yeah, it's sort of weird. Like I said, I'd much prefer the spray lubricant. This is quicker, you don't have to let it sort of dry on the cases like you do with the spray lubricant, but if you set all your cases up, spray them, and then go and set your press and die up and get everything else ready. It's dried on them before you finished setting up. You dye and press and everything else. So the fact that the spray stuff's got to dry on them doesn't really factor in my opinion. If you get your sort of steps for your process sorted out and do it first, and you're not waiting around for it. It looks like I'm using a lot, but if you could see the pad, it's literally probably the lines that I'm drawing on there with the bottle are literally 1/2 millimetre wide. Like it doesn't flow out hardly at all. I found once you sort of get a bit on the pad, you don't have to put much more on. You don't have to be real heavy with it. Like I said, it looks like I'm using a lot, but I'm really not. Hardly any at all. I've probably done say 400 cases this way now. I'd still rather spray, but like I said, you just can't get it. Another thing with that, the Lyman spray lube, that stuff was really waxy. Like, it must be real wax based or something. I don't know how to describe it. Super waxy. Whereas this stuff's tacky. The Hornady stuff seems to dry almost, well, once it's dry in the cases, it's almost dry to the touch. Whereas this is tacky. The Lyman stuff is waxy, like real waxy. I could change the jaws around to the standard large rifle case set, and they'd work better for this. You wouldn't get cases tipping and sort of catching like that one did, and a few of the others have done. But it's easier to just leave it on the 338 Lapua size ones because they work for the normal large cases as well. Although they do tip a few of the cases every now and again. And I am going fast with these. So, sort of more my fault than the press, really. Okay, that's that. Gotta get that out of there. That's that part done. Go ready. Okay. Hopefully, now when I make the next video, it'll be when I've got the Beretta and we're going over that. I've still got some loaded ammo in 308 that I can use in the Beretta. It's the ammo that I've loaded for the Mauser M18 308, but it's the ammo, the cases that I'd run through this die after I'd ground the shell holder down and I'd sized them on the Lee press. So they'll definitely work in it because they'll be back to basically new case dimensions, or as close to as you can get them running them through a full length die when it is sizing properly. So yeah, I've got say 10 rounds of that, and then I'll do load development for the Beretta as well using this brass now. Well, probably the other 100 cases, new cases that I'd sized in that first, which are sitting over here in an MTM ammo case. Okay, this is those same 308 cases into the ultrasonic cleaner. I've got it on heat, although I'll put warm water in to start with. I've run the degas function. As you can see, it started at 30 minutes. It's now down to 22 seconds. So these will stay in here for that half hour. That'll be enough to get the lube off. And basically what I do is I take them out, I rinse them just under cold water to get any of the cleaning solution off, because I do make my own, which is basically just dishwashing detergent and some citric acid, and I want to neutralise the acid on it, so I just rinse them off. I don't go to the trouble of running them through a base liquid like bicarb soda in water or anything like that. And after I've sort of rinsed them, I just sort of grab handfuls of them, shake any excess water off them, put them on a towel, fold the towel over them, rub them a couple of times. That gets any big droplets off and stops watermarks from forming on the brass. And then from the towel I go into the dehumidifier, the dehydrator, for a few hours to dry. I just thought I'd chuck a little clip of them sitting in this into the video, but I won't bother about the dehydrator. You don't really need to see that. It's self-explanatory. Just get a cheap one off Amazon. It does the job. I find roughly 3 hours on the high setting. The dehydrator dries them out perfectly. Gets the insides dry of the cases. I do check. I just sort of get a torch and check inside some of the cases at the top level of the dehydrator after 3 hours to make sure there's no water droplets in there. If there's no water droplets, every other case below that will be dry inside as well, because they heats from the bottom upwards. Okay, I will click this into that other video. See you in the next one, hopefully with the Beretta.